So I've got Stephanie Scheller here with me today. She's a fellow Texan and a great marketing expert, as well as a great conference putter honor. I don't know the right word for that, but I'm sure Stephanie can fill us in. We met on LinkedIn. We've been good friends. Welcome, Stephanie.
I love it. A conference putter honor. That probably is better. I always say event producer, and everyone's like, "Oh, so can you put on my open house?" I'm like, No,
No.
that's an event planner." I love
So
it.
one of the things I love about you is you have this ADHD mind, and that is your God-given talent, honestly, that you have used for the benefit of others. You put on conferences for business owners who are looking for a little bit of a different type of conference experience. Can you explain a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, so the biggest thing when we started putting on these events was will never forget. I was sitting in a room with a colleague and trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. I'd built this multi six figure sales training practice, realized I didn't want to be a sales trainer. I built a multi six figure coaching practice, realized I didn't want to be a coach. And this friend looked at me and he goes, "Well, why don't you put on events for business owners?" And I just remember looking at him and just being like I'd shot down every idea this guy brought up until this point, and I looked at him, and I said, "I hate most events. I've gone to those events, I hate them." And I think he was just at the end of his rope, and he goes, "Then put on the kind of event you wanna put on, Steph." And I was like, "Can I do that?" And so that was really, like, where it started, was just trying to figure out what kind of event do like, I've been to conferences, I've been to retreats. I walk out exhausted, beat up, with a notebook full of ideas that I never get back to. I need a day or 2 to recover at least, and then 3 months later, all I am is feeling guilty because I haven't done anything with everything I learned, and I wanted to create something that was different. So we created the event, and I tell people a lot of times, I say, "Look, the people who come to our events are usually the people who don't like going to conferences anymore. They're tired of being pitched endlessly. They're tired of being crammed into rooms. They're tired of being given, half the content, and if you want more, you got to buy it, and being made to feel bad when they go home." And so we just started pursuing that, and that's led to, all of the weird and crazy things we do now, like the custom coffee blend and the custom tea blend and custom music and custom scents and the agendas and it's we've gone down the rabbit hole. It's amazing.
One of the things I thought was interesting too is that your conference, while it very much supports the ADHD mind,
Mhm.
that's not all you invite, because business owners who are visionaries really walk that line of
Yeah.
ADHD for sure. So bringing all that together is really interesting. And I think some of the things you just named are those things that make it a little bit different, a little bit more specific.
Yeah, when we first announced, because we didn't know that we had this ADHD lean for a long time. We didn't really even announce it until 2022. And when we did, we had all these people. I announced it like with great trepidation because I fully expected us to lose a chunk of our base, people who wouldn't want to come back to an event because it was catered towards ADHD people. And I had people coming up to me at our events and going, "Wait, so am I not allowed to come back? N I don't have ADHD." I was like, "Of course you can come back. I'm not checking, you don't need a doctor's note to get into the room here, like, of course you can come back." All we're doing is we've just realized that a lot of the stuff we do is really specific to ADHD neurodivergencies, but in reality, it works for most of us.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that has been my experience in getting to know you and working with you on some other things together, you and your team are great marketers. And I know you also help small businesses with their marketing. So, how did that become part of this business?
Yeah, so I've been obsessed with marketing since college. I heard about a study that they did where they did like subliminal messaging in ads at a movie theater, and then everyone was going out and buying stuff like in the lobby on the breaks and stuff. And I like freaked out. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I need to understand marketing because I never want people to manipulate me like that." And so I started like studying marketing like a crazy person. I got my first job in marketing. My first business was a sales training practice. And then in 2020, key. Obviously, I run an events company now. And when 2020 hit, obviously in March, there was a moment of, oh,
Fear?
yeah.
Pure fear? Yeah.
And then by the fall, people were calling me to ask, "Oh my gosh, are you okay? How are you doing?" And all I could tell people was like, "I'm hiring. We've doubled. I don't like, do you know anyone who can do X?" And so that led to a lot of questions about, um, "Ho you're not supposed to be doing that." And it really came down to, one, having a really good product. We have a huge base of people who come back to our events again and again and again, even through a pandemic, because they trusted me, they trusted the event, they needed the event, they knew the event was going to be what they needed. But a huge chunk of it came down to marketing, and marketing on a $0 a month budget, because I was not going to put money into ads. That was, I mean, that was when we stopped spending money on ads, period, because I was like, I'm not spending money on something that's, so iffy. And we realized when we put more energy into really getting creative with our marketing, we had a lot better results. We had a lot better engagement. We had more people buying tickets to our events. It was a completely different experience. And so that led to people then asking, well, what would you do to market my business? And I started an accidental agency, accidental marketing agency for a little while there. And then I realized what I'd done, and made that my third multi six-figure business that I then shut down. Um, but now I do a lot of teaching and training and consulting, where I'll go in and I'll help people figure out, okay, what does your messaging need to be? How are you going to present that? But it really just started with everyone calling and going, "Are you okay?" And me being like, "Yeah, I'm hiring," like not realizing what we'd even pulled off at that point.
That's pretty spectacular. Most people don't accidentally invent a business.
So people
Oops.
kept asking me, like, they were like, "So, what would you do to market my business?" And I would build them a marketing plan, and then they would look at the marketing plan and be like, "Yeah, can you just do it for me?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, we can do that. Oh, I've got, my team's got room, we got capacity." Yeah, absolutely. So I just kept taking on all of these clients, and then all of a sudden I was like, "How did I end up with an agency? I don't want a marketing agency."
Well, I do love
So,
that you've niched it down a little bit. So people can come to your events. They can get a little bit of help with their marketing for their small business.
absolutely.
But you also do some pretty cool things surrounding setting up your space
Oh,
to maintain focus, which I think
yeah.
is really cool. So you might have mentioned some as we started talking about the event, but I'm going to let you kind of embiggen those ideas and tell me what are your top suggestions in those areas.
Yeah, so this also did come from like the events when I started studying. Okay, so how do we create an event where the event is the product? People don't have to buy stuff on the back end to implement it. And so the question became, okay, so how do I create an event where, one, I noticed people weren't staying focused. So I was like, okay, what do I need to do to get them focused? So first we fixed our agenda. We made sure the agenda was really good. And then I started to look at like, okay, so we're still having people getting lost. What else can we do? So I really started to dig into like the neuroscience of architecture, basically, which is actually a thing. There's actually a school in California for this. And really starting to understand, how does space setup, lighting, scent, surroundings impact how our brain is functioning. And there are a handful of things that do impact on a completely subconscious level what we're doing. The one I talk about a lot is scent, because scent is so closely tied to memory. And so we got a custom scent created for our events. Hey, you have your candles.
I'm going to bring
Um,
mine up. Stephanie taught me this. I have one for strategy and I have one for focus time.
See? So what happens is, if you're consistent with putting that scent up when you're doing strategy or doing focus, your brain starts to associate that scent, because scent is so closely tied to memory. So now when your brain smells that, your brain goes, "Oh, it's time to focus." Which is really, really helpful for like ADHD people, because we have this imbalance in the brain going on with dopamine, and our brains don't regulate it and don't produce it properly. And so your brain, like, it's basically like a cheat code to get you into focus mode for ADHD people, but it works really well for like
It
neurotypicals
works.
as well, because
It works for
like
all of us.
it does, right? The connection between scent and memory is so incredibly strong. And I tell this story, the day I came up with the idea of getting our own custom scent, I had walked into the bathroom, and in the bathroom, I have a bunch of like, I don't do a ton of these anymore, but when I was younger, I did like a bunch of like Bath and Body Works spray and sprays and perfumes and stuff. And I just remember I walked into the bathroom and I have them all over there. I don't know why, I don't use them, but I have them all. And I saw this one that my now husband had gotten for me on like our first date. We went out to this shopping center and I picked it up and I like spritzed it. And I instantly went back to Polaris Shopping Center in Columbus, Ohio, standing in the Bath and Body Works. And I could remember exactly how cold it was outside. I could remember the jacket I was wearing, the scent, that this was the first time I'd smelled this scent. I remember we went to Cheesecake Factory afterwards. We got the nachos. I mean, like, y'all, this was more than 10 years ago. And I'm remembering crazy details I haven't thought about in forever until I spritzed that scent. And so my brain went to, could I get a custom event scent created that would help people remember what they learned at the event? But then what we learned, the more we dug into it, was, oh my gosh, this actually can completely change your entire space and teach your brain to go into it. So scent is number one. Couple more quick ones I'll throw out. Ceiling height. So high ceilings will lend itself towards creativity. Lowered ceilings lend itself towards focus. So if you don't have control over your ceilings, like most of us, you can always use glasses when you need to focus. You can also get a hat, so you get a brim. And that will help pull you into focus mode. And then the other thing that I like to point out to people is lighting. So if you have your lighting coming from behind, so my lighting points at the walls, but it reflects this way. And so when I really need to focus, I turn off the backlight, I turn down the computer screen so that it's very dim, and all of the lighting is coming from behind me, directing my attention forward. So there's at least 3 things pretty much everyone can use space-wise.
I love that because, it's absolutely true on the lighting. When I have my lights, you can see my hand even getting brighter up there. When I have my
Yep.
lights in my face to record, I have this energy because I'm on, right?
Yep.
When
Yep.
those go off, though, I can actually feel things relax. So
Yep.
all these things really work, ADHD or not.
The brain. Your brain is so friggin' smart. We just have to work with it better. So, yeah, I
But
love it.
she's talking
I
about
nerd out.
everyone's, not just mine in
Yes, yes,
particular, although probably true.
yes. I will say Susan's brain in particular is brilliant, but those of you watching that will extend the. I'm actually a big believer in that. I know people always go, "Well, how can you say that? You don't know who's watching." I'm a big believer in human potential and the capability that we have. Our brains are brilliant. The fact we have opposable thumbs is freaking brilliant. Like, what we're capable of, our potential is unreal and it's unmatched. It's just up to us to reach out and grasp it. So,
And on that brilliant note, we will get you information on Stephanie, how to reach out to her below. And thank you very much for joining us.